Hello and welcome to another episode of What's Up, Missoula. I'm your host, Ricky Danielson, and with us today, we have some people representing the Missoula Writing Collaborative. We have Cheryl Nothi. She is the artistic director, and we also have a student who has been participating in the program for several years since he was in 8th grade, Michael Nelson. So nice for you to join us today. Did I get it right? In 8th grade? That's when you started?
7th grade was when he began.
Yes.
Really? 8th grade was when he had his great success.
Yes.
Excellent. And what school were you going to?
Hellgate Middle School.
Well, Cheryl, tell us what this means. What is the Missoula Writing Collaborative? What does it have to do with schools?
The Missoula Writing Collaborative puts published authors in the classroom with children. We convey our excitement and our love of language and the importance of expressing yourself with getting your emotions outside rather than keeping everything boiling inside so it eventually explodes.
So you send out professional writers into schools. Where do they go?
Oh, we're in about 17 schools, including schools on the reservation and a school in Hawaii and in Heidelberg, Alaska.
Wow.
We have been around for about 16 years, and our writers have covered in excess of 50,000 children.
And this is all the Missoula Writing Collaborative.
That's right. We're located mostly in western Montana. Our mission is to serve the underserved. Someone once told me that having the Missoula Writing Collaborative in the classroom is a private school experience. That's the quality. Our writers go in and they read work to children and they talk about poetry and the vocabulary and expose them to all kinds of authors. And then the children write. Then they come up to the front of the room in the author's chair and they read their work, and the other kids applaud and ask questions. And it's an incredible program. Lowell School, where we have been for over a decade, the last principal there said that we raised reading scores every year we were there.
Fantastic. And so how long have you been involved in it?
Well, I founded it in 1984.
What compelled you to do that?
Well, I'd lived in New York City and taught in the Teachers and Writers Collaborative there, and that was the work I knew I was made to do, especially because when I was in 5th grade, I came from a troubled alcoholic household with battering, and I bit my nails and wet the bed, and I didn't talk, and my teeth were bad, and my clothes were bad, and I was a miserable human being. But my 5th grade teacher told me that I was going to be an author and I was going to write books. And that changed everything about my world. I stopped defining myself as a loser, and I began defining myself as an author. I got to rewrite the script that had been laid out or not laid out, and become someone that I never imagined I could become. I've published 4 books of poetry. I've published a teaching text, and I've been able to be with children and help them find their voice and express their emotions, and it is the best job on earth. It's a magical work.
And how did you meet David?
He was in 7th grade.
Michael, sorry.
Michael. He was in 7th grade at Hellgate Middle School, and he was a spectacular writer. And when he was in 8th grade, this national contest notified me. It's called Do the Right Thing, and it's about writing about violence by teens and by kids, and what can you do and where do you find it in your life. This was the first year this national program asked Montana to be involved. And so Michael wrote a poem. When he stood up and read it, the other 8th graders wept and applauded. And I said, Michael, I want you to enter this contest. So he had to have parental permission, which was very difficult for him because the poem was expressing things that he had never been able to express. And he'll tell you all about that. But the culmination is Michael won national first prize award winner. He went to Washington, D.C. for 2 weeks.
In 8th grade?
Yeah.
Wow.
And he was interviewed by CNN, and he had his work published, and he was celebrated as a prize-winning author at 14.
And what was the name of the contest?
Do the Right Thing.
Oh, okay.
Michael, do you want to talk about how having a writer come into your classroom changed your life?
Sure. Well, for beginners, I never imagined that any of these experiences would culminate to everything that I've experienced. I figured it was just another class, just something else I had to do. I never really thought much about writing as a talent or a medium. And, well, the 7th grade, when I went to Cheryl Nothy's poetry class, I first of all thought that she was an absolute doll. Love at first sight, darling. And I began to really find ways that I'd never thought of to express how I was feeling. And at the time, home life, not quite the extent of Cheryl's, but still pretty upsetting for me. It wasn't the best of times. You know, mom and dad going through a divorce, mom beginning to drink, my brother in and out of the house every now and again, just tension between everyone. It wasn't a good time. Poetry most definitely helped me find a voice that I couldn't find anywhere else. And definitely in 7th grade is when I really started to open up with my feelings. And 8th grade, we were asked to submit essays and poems for Do the Right Thing. And didn't think much about it. People ask me time and time again, how did you think of it? Where did you find those words? Where did it come from? And I said, I have no idea. I just put the pencil down and it just comes to you. It's something that you can't force. Something else that you learn in poetry. And after I had written it, I thought it was, you know, just another one that I had written.
But remember when you read it out loud, how all of your 8th grade
yes.
classmates were moved to tears and applause?
I didn't expect that reaction at all. It was an amazing experience to see them.
What was the poem about?
The title of the poem is Mummy Dearest. And it was about my home life, but mostly about my mother and her alcoholism.
Could you read the first couple lines of this fabulous piece?
Sure. Smooth is the vodka, bubbly is the champagne. Smooth and bubbly is Mummy Dearest as she stumbles through the door.
And so what was the result of this poem in your home? Which this is just the beginning.
Yeah, that's just the first couple of lines.
He had to
I had
get
to
his
get
mother's permission.
Yes, I had to get parental consent to enter it into the contest. And that was a huge step for me because I had never confronted my mother about how I felt about it, about her drinking. So finally, I pulled myself to have the courage to do that.
Yeah.
And it was late at night. I bring her the poem and I told her that I wanted to submit it for a competition at school. And she read it and she gave me the most astonished, proud, inspired look I'd ever seen on her face, ever. And she told me, Michael, you know you're going to win, right? And I said, I don't think so, Mom, but I'm glad that you have faith in me. And that was the night that my mother decided to stop drinking, and she's still sober today.
Wow, that's fantastic.
Incredible.
So you cured her of her alcoholism.
Well,
It definitely inspired her.
she cured herself
Yeah.
with the help of the program, but Michael brought it all into the light, what had been hidden.
Yeah.
And his mother's love for him was so huge that when she saw the power and intensity of this poem, she went that night and began the program. And we're celebrating sobriety years later.
Exactly.
Wonderful. And so this is something that you've seen before, where children have come up and suddenly learned to express themselves, something that was very difficult for them to discuss.
Yes. Once they understand that literature is a dialogue throughout history, and they're a part of it, then they write about their lives and their feelings, and we teach them to, use details and use the senses, and we show them great examples and prompts. And it's funny because the kids that are usually in the detention room are the kids that frequently are the top poets. And they tell their teachers, I'm an author now, which is just what happened to me and just what I want to do with my life. So Michael is a spectacular and outstanding example, but we do see children changed every day. And the work that they write, sometimes the writers and I go, I'm just going to give up. You go get published. Children are natural poets. And if we can get to them, third grade, early enough, that they have a voice and they know they belong and they have a right to be a part of that dialogue, then it changes their lives because they're so much more creative, there's so many more choices, and things are brought into the light rather than making you sick inside.
All right.
And so we do see great change.
And how many students have you affected with
Well,
this?
I figure after close to 17 years in the schools, we have taught in excess of 50,000 children.
Wow. And so how many authors do you have involved in this right now?
We have about a dozen published authors.
And are these paid positions? where
Yes,
they go in
we
and-
pay our writers.
Okay.
We don't ask writers to volunteer because people always expect artists to, well, you do it for fun and a hobby. Why don't you come in and do something for free? Although, of course, it's not like that. And so we give writers a chance to work at what they love most. Putting poetry and kids together is the most magic formula.
And so this is a class that's attended like a full hour or what, once a week, or how do you do
Once a week, we go into 3 classrooms or 3 classroom hours and work with those students for the school year. If the school, other teachers and kids hear about it, see the poetry bulletin boards, and they want poetry, then we may break at the semester and start a new group. Because once the school and the teachers find out how effective this program is, they want more. Our program is very successful and beautifully running and respected, but with the economy, I never imagined when I was reading in the paper about the economy that it would come into my life and sit on my lap.
How have you been getting your funding?
We have been very lucky with writing grants.
Yeah.
We have been getting the NEA and other foundations. Well, since the collapse of the economy, those foundations are focusing on food and shelter. Now, Michael and I would tell you poetry is food and shelter.
Yes.
But we are in a financial crisis right now, and we are reaching out to the community, asking for people to send whatever they can afford, whatever is comfortable with them. No donation is too small, so that we can get through this school year, and then continued funding is in place. And so we're going to have an event to raise funds. We're sending out packets with information, asking, and we're particularly hoping that we can get the attention of the parents of those more than 50,000 children, because if those parents gave $1 apiece, we would be set for the year.
So what is the event?
Well, we're working on that right now. We're thinking about a luncheon or a dinner dance, or we have a fundraising committee, and we have a lot of good, smart people on our board working on it. But time is going so quickly, and when we do have our event, I will tell everybody. Also, people can go to our website, MissoulaWritingCollaborative.org, and there's children's poetry, and there's photographs, and there's a description of what we do, and biographies of our writers, and also a place where you can donate.
Okay. And so be sure to use the MCAT message board, and people can look for this information there. And that runs all the time on MCAT. Whenever there isn't a show showing, you just send in the information.
Oh, wonderful.
And you can email it in if you like, and just all about whatever it is, and you can just say, run this for the next month, and then, or run this for the next week, or whatever, and just keep at us about publicizing what your event is. And one fundraiser, I was going to suggest this just because you are writers and artists are so closely tied that sometimes you can hold a raffle and get some. So maybe if there's any Missoula artists out there that want to contribute
And take
to the
part.
cause, right?
A raffle or a
they-
silent auction.
Yeah. Raffles sometimes are an easy way to start because people just buy a raffle ticket and they see, oh, here's this great print I can get, and just buy a ticket for $1 or whatever it is, or $5. So
Heck, I'll put
yeah.
my car up. My cat.
Your cat, oh no.
Mike Tyson, the one-eyed wild man.
Scratchy cat, yeah. Anyway, yeah, I hope you can get some fundraising events done up, and be sure to use Missoula Community Access Television and all the other media here.
This has been a
because-
real education for us.
Yeah, excellent.
Because our board has sprung into action.
Okay.
And we're going to come out a leaner, meaner machine.
Yeah. Okay. Well, let's talk some more about some of the things that have come out of this. Do you have any other children who have grown up? It's been going on for 16 years.
That's
so
right.
Other authors that have sprung out of this?
Yes, there is a young woman who has a series of books. And right now, of course, I can't remember her name.
Oh, dear.
But she started with me in 4th grade and now is regularly publishing.
Wonderful.
We don't look for, in particular, to get kids published, although it's wonderful. What we want to do is give them the gift of their own
Writing.
writing.
Right. Because it is empowering.
Oh.
And it's just another way to express yourself.
Yes.
And if you can write, you also have better language skills. It all feeds itself. So.
And we do so much writing in this culture, whether it's email, job application, love letter, complaint letters. If you can just pick up your pencil and freely write, it's so much different than struggling and trying. And
Yeah.
one of my favorite quotations is when I was teaching in a grade school. A 4th grader said to me, "Do we have to wait until you're done talking to write, or can we write when we see you coming down the hall?"
That's great.
Coming down the hall, I said.
Yeah, very inspiring. And so we were talking earlier about how, you know, right now you haven't been doing much writing. You're in a school now in Missoula where they don't have the writing program.
No.
And so do you think if the writing program were in that school that you would be doing some writing?
Most definitely, I would have continued.
That's the problem. What happens is when children move on, if there's not a writer at the school, then the focus isn't on their own creativity, and it drifts away. Although many of my students continue emailing me and sending me poetry, and we stay in touch because we meant so much to each other.
Well, I remember several years ago, I saw this book. I think you gave it to me, or I bought it. I can't remember what, but it was a collection
Poetry
of poetry.
everywhere?
Yeah,
Yes, poetry by kids.
it was
yeah.
wonderful.
And so you can look in and you can see a lesson that you want to do. And then it has examples by children of all ages. And so when I was going into one-room schoolhouses in Idaho, and I'd have these little cowboy kids sitting there with his hat pulled down going, "I ain't writing no poetry." Then I would read them examples of children in Salmon, Idaho, who had written about how much they hate cattle. And, or the rodeo, or sports. And the kids would hear that and they'd go, "That's poetry? I can do that." I said, "Show me." And they did. We also put together an anthology of student work at the end of the year. They get to see their work as text. And when you see your pencil scribbles turn into real text, it just enhances the excitement about writing. And we also do a reading to the public.
Yes.
Now, most American adults, when polled, said that the thing that they fear the most is not the guy with the ski mask and the hatchet behind the wood pile. It's not the rabid skunk in the park. It is speaking before a group. And so our students get up and read their own work aloud on a regular basis. And thus, they are courageous and fearless people.
So it's a speech class too, in
Yes.
essence. Yeah. So why aren't you in his high school? What different high schools? Or you're not in high school? You're
It's
only
funding.
in. Which schools are you in? Are you in middle schools or?
Yes,
mostly-
we're in elementary schools, middle schools. We're at Big Sky High School. We do have a writer doing a flagship program at another high school, but it is funding. That's always the problem. Although Dr. Apostle, the superintendent, approves of what we're doing and appreciates it. So we're looking towards more commitment from the schools as well. We're at Hawthorne, we're at Lowell, we're at Franklin, we are at Hellgate Elementary, and if you can name a school, I can tell you whether or not we're there.
Well, let's put it this way. It sounds like you really need help now, which you weren't asking the community previously.
That's right.
Because you were basing your funding on grants, national
Yes,
grants.
and the program is so wonderful. We got grants, and then the economy crashed.
Yes.
And I was reading in the paper about how, you know, when it crashes in America, the rest of the world are really devastated.
Yes.
And I never dreamed that it would hit home.
Well, and here's the thing, is that even if you don't, if someone out there, even if you don't have a child in school, that, you know, the children are our future, and to be able
Yes.
to offer them any method to be able to communicate their true feelings. What's amazing, I do remember that book that you gave me, and I remember that there were children in there writing, and it was like seeing, I guess, the best description I have is when you go down to the mall when they have all the artwork up from the kids that are like, you know, in elementary school,
Yeah.
and you think, oh my God, look at that. It's just so original. You know, they think they'll do an animal, a giraffe that'll have like 3 heads or something, and it's just so artistic. It's so
Naive and visionary.
Yes, and so to
And honest.
Yes,
And honest.
and so that's the thing, is that we are doing the same thing with children in writing, is to help them discover their individuality. We get to share in it. So I think it's really worthwhile.
It helps
I
them
hope people-
become the authentic people that they were meant to be.
Yes.
We're also at Paxson, St. Ignatius.
There you go.
Arlee. It's starting to click in.
Okay. And so,
Snowball.
and this is in other states also, right?
Well, we go to a village in Heidelberg, Alaska. And we have a writer that works with those students. They don't have water running. There's a boil order, and they only have one paved street. But he's having the time of his life. I went 4 times to a charter school in Hawaii. The charter schools are created by the indigenous parents because the Board of Ed in Hawaii is run by the Japanese educational system of rote memorization, and the kids have to take white names.
Oh,
So the parents created schools where they kept their names, they kept their language and their culture. There isn't a classroom, but when we do science, we go to the ocean. And then they have a small farm on the mountain, and we go up the mountain, and the second graders show us the reeds they're growing for weaving, and the trees the invasive trees that they're stripping the bark from to make sails for the masts. And those children live in the world 100% 3D, and so I get them to write about the pride and joy.
excellent. So showing them how to express
Yes.
things that are bothering them, and obviously changing lives with writing. It is an amazing weapon and against bad things
An
in
amazing
life. Yeah.
tool, an amazing gift.
Excellent. Well, thanks so much for coming on today. I really enjoyed talking to you today, Michael. And good luck with your future, and I hope you start writing again.
Most definitely.
Michael, I hope you start writing again, darling.
Of course, Cheryl.
Thanks, Cheryl. Thanks
Oh,
for coming
thank
on
you
the show.
so much.
Okay, and be sure to use MCAT for your publicity,
I
for your
sure will.
fundraising.
I sure will. And I want to thank everyone for listening and caring.
Excellent. Okay, thank you. Thanks for joining us today.